Okay, just try a quick video here. Um, Here's where you should be at if you've been following through so far. I'm going to introduce one more chord right now and a little bit about how you can read a chord diagram that you might pick up in a book or in the internet. Um, the first chord in the song by David Crowder, "Here's My Heart," happens to be an E minor chord. That's where that song starts. Um, I I posted a version of that a chord sheet that I just pulled off the internet from Ultimate Guitar on a um, Facebook page that I have set up some time ago actually for discussing this kind of thing with folks, and it's called Praise Jam. So if you would like to be a part of that, to where you could, for example, I could just send you the chord sheet that I'm using or another doc, or it'd be a good discussion forum to be able to go back and forth about this stuff if you have questions. Perhaps much better than trying to do it through YouTube or something. Perhaps if you don't do Facebook, you could always try to email me. But on the Facebook, if you look, you can find me. And if I don't know you, we can make arrangements to add you in or whatever we need to do. So typically in chord diagrams, your fingers are numbered 1, 2 for your middle, 3, and then 4 for your pinky. So an E minor chord, the way I showed you to play it, which is by no means the only way to play an E minor chord at all, but it is a common way of learning at first. Your fingers go on the guitar something like this. So your number 2, here's your number 1, your number 2 finger is on string 5 at the 2nd fret. So it would have a diagram that would show it oftentimes oriented like this, and there would be a 2 written on the string right there, and then immediately below it there would be a 3. So they're both on the 2nd fret, but that means finger 2 and finger 3 go right there in that position. So it would show the nut right here. If it's like a first position chord, it would show the next several frets, and it would have a number indicating the finger you're supposed to put down for that. So that would be a 2 3. So if you're ever wanting to learn how to play a new chord, particularly in first position, as you go on down the neck, it works the same though. You can look them up, or you can look up alternative ways of doing it, which we won't get into right now. But as long as you get the root, the third, and the fifth of the scale for the chord you're trying to play, in this case it would be an E minor scale that we would need to use, the root, the third, and the fifth. And there are other chords that are modified or added to that we can get into later. But it'll show you how to do it, and maybe at least a couple of different ways, if not more. So you should be getting to the point that you can do that. The C chord would be a 1 finger right here, up here on the 4th string at the 2nd fret. You would have your second and then your third. And again, that's not the only way to play this chord by any means. But that's a good first position. I don't have my pinky down or anything there. It's a good first position chord. The G chord, essentially these two fingers can be shifted up and your pinky can drop in. So this would be a 4 written right here on fret 3 on string 1. Like that. And then the D chord that we showed had a first finger on the 3rd string, fret 2. Your ring finger, actually kind of I guess I should go in order. Your second finger, 2, was on the very bottom string, string 1, at fret 2 also. And then this 3rd finger goes in here. There's actually, you may see it with a 4 added right up here on the 4th string, 4th fret. Gives a chord a slightly different sound. It adds an F sharp, which is an important note in that chord. There's also one right here. So if you leave your pinky off, which many beginners do, you get a D note there on the open 4th string. So the chord I want to add real quick has your first finger, number 1, on string 2, fret 1. Your number 2 finger, typically the way it's played, will go on string 4 at fret 2, and then this one tucks in under it on 2nd fret also. This is your number 3 finger on the 2nd fret, string 3, and sounds, has that minor sound to it that we've kind of come to know. So I know when I've tried to watch people playing a guitar, such as you're maybe doing on this video, it's sometimes hard to tell where those fingers are hitting. So I do recommend a good chord diagram reference that you can pick up anywhere in print resources or get you one off the internet. So what we're trying to do is, there's the C, there's the G, there's the D. If you want to throw the A minor chord, there's the E minor again. Put them in all different orders, in all different progressions. Just get till you can quickly change from one to the other. And that will be awkward at first, but you will eventually become comfortable with that. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. It does take a little time, though, to get accustomed to it. But there are a lot of benefits to those 4 chords right there, and things that you can do with them. So here's what I would like you to do for a little teaching moment. I'm going to wrap this one up quickly. Um, the scale that all of the key that the song is actually written in, as far as the chord shapes. I did play it 4th fret the other day, which changes its key, but its basic chord shapes are in the key of G, which is a great first one to learn, actually, and very versatile. You'll see a lot of people who do a lot of very good singing and who are actually really big names in Christian music, and because they're concentrating on their vocals, they'll use those chord shapes a lot. Um, so anyway, here's what I'd like you to do real quick. See if you can remember and actually write this down. I'll show you how I did it. Let me hold this up if I can to where you can see it there. There we are, not bad maybe. You'll see that I have written G major scale, and then I've written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to represent the 8 degrees in the scale. Started at the root note of a G and gone whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And I end up with G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then another G again. I won't claim to have the greatest writing in the world. Here's what you have to do to make this into a minor scale. There are 3 notes you need to adjust to make it a minor scale. The 3rd note of the scale needs to be taken down 1/2 step. It needs to be flatted 1/2 step. The 6th note of the scale needs to be flatted 1/2 step, and the 7th note. Those 3 notes. So to just show you real quick how that works here's the same sheet of paper, but I folded it down so you can actually also see the G minor scale. You'll notice the 3rd tone is now a B flat. That's a 1/2 step lower. You'll notice the 6th tone has gone from an E to a D sharp. That's a 1/2 lower. And you will notice that I no longer have an F sharp, I have an F. The G minor scale is a totally different scale with a totally different sound. And I won't get into how you would play those, up and down that. That's more of a lead guitar thing. But it is good to know that that's what you have to do to go from one scale to the other, is flat 3 notes, the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th. What I would like you to do is to write out an E major scale. So underneath these, if you have a sheet of paper where you can write that down and get your G major scale and your G minor scale, make sure that makes sense to you. Then below that, just line it up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and put a spot for E major. There's a reason why I've picked E as the one I want to show you next. And pause the video here and actually write out, going whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, write out an E major scale. So stop the video and do that. So if you've tried that and you're ready to go on, let me just show you the major one. Okay, there's E major, E, F sharp, G sharp A, B, C sharp, D sharp E. Whole, whole, half to get to the A from G sharp, whole, whole to get all the way from B to C sharp, another whole to get all the way to D sharp, and then a half step to get to E. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's the pattern of a major scale. So now pause it again and just make sure if you got that and make sure it makes sense. And then do an E minor right below it. Here's what you have to do. You have to flat the third by a half step, the sixth by a half step, and the seventh by a half step. And just go ahead and pause the video and write that out. Okay, if you're ready, here's what it looks like. The E minor scale, which is at the bottom, has an E, an F sharp, but notice that the third tone, the G sharp, has become a G. Then we have an A and a B. Notice the sixth tone has, I had to mark it out because I wrote the sharp, but it has a C. And then the seventh tone has also been flatted down to a D, and then we have the E. This is an E minor scale. It has a different interval to it than the major scale, and it has an interesting look if you look at it. Check out on the E minor scale what notes are in it. You'll notice there is only one sharp, F sharp, and everything else falls right on the note, like a B or a C. Well, if you were to go back and look at your G major scale at the very beginning of your sheet, you are going to find that it contains, if I can show it here, it's not the greatest way to do this, but it'll have to work for now. You can find that, lo and behold, out here in the G major scale, there is an F sharp, but everything else is right on the note. In fact, if you compare G major and E minor, they have the exact same notes. So if you've ever wondered, you know, or look at the song we're doing, if there's a G chord and a C chord and a D chord, these are very common because they're the number 1, the number 4, and the number 5 chord in the G major scale. But why does E minor pop up so often? And it is because that an E minor chord, and in fact the entire E minor scale, not just the root, the third, and the fifth, contains the exact same notes as G major. So that has tremendous application for lead guitar players, but it also has some relevance for rhythm guitar players and vocalists. So do it one more time. Start with a root note of A and go through the whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, and do an A major scale, if you wish, on the same paper, perhaps right below it. Because this could be a nice little reference for you if you have something like this written down. So pause the video just a second and try that. All right. So here's what I have for it written down. A major starts on A at the root and goes whole step to B, a whole step all the way to C sharp, half step goes to D, whole to E, whole to F sharp, a whole step to G sharp, and then finally A, which is again the octave above the original root. Has 3 sharps in it there, if you'll notice. Well, remember what you need to do to create the minor is flat 3 of the notes, the third, the sixth, and seventh. So take a moment and just right below there, A minor scale. And flat those 3 notes, and then start the video again. Okay? Well, here is both of the scales together. You'll notice that the third became not a C sharp, but a C. The sixth went from F sharp to F. I had to fix that one again. And the seventh went from G sharp to G. And if you look at A minor, it is not exactly the same as a G scale, because the F did change to a natural. It's not sharp anymore. But the root A, the third C, and the fifth E are all notes that exist in G major. So while an A minor chord will not be used as often, you have to use it carefully. You can't be doing it in a spot where the F sharp's real important, but the scale is almost relative to G major. And so for that reason, you'll occasionally hear A minors. And one of the things that I hope you get to realize is if you pick a key and you have a key you like and you learn the chords and you want to try to write songs, you know, you learn a major scale and it's a framework, it's a skeleton. You learn a minor scale and it teaches you why that one is different and why it has a different sound. It has a different interval structure. But when it comes to songwriting or actually figuring out when you're listening to a song on the radio, what are they playing there? It's very, very helpful to know that the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 minor, in the case of G, that's an E minor chord, and even the 2 minor, A minor, which if used carefully can be used to effect in that song. And then there are many variations that can be, of course, put on that, but you don't need to know them all to be an effective worship leader or to learn how to play a ton of songs. That right there is almost more musical theory than a great many good guitarists know. But I do think they would benefit from knowing it. And I think if you become a lead guitarist, you will eventually know that. So here is this sheet that I had that we were looking at. It's got a G major, a G minor, it's got an E major, an E minor, and an A major and an A minor. You could theoretically make yourself a reference that has those pairs of scales for any key you can possibly imagine, starting at any root position and then create the major scale going whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Create the minor scale. I don't learn the interval pattern for the minor scale. I simply realize that if I know what's in the major key, then the minor is going to contain a flatted third, a flatted sixth, and a flatted seventh. One additional note before I wrap this one up, keep working on being able to play the, I guess, 5 chords now maybe that we've introduced. If you need help to remember how to play them, look up a chord diagram for them in some resource, either print or otherwise. And, you know, don't be frustrated that this is slow at first or that it feels awkward, because it will. Um, and you know, make sure you get you a tuner, make sure you pick up a capo somewhere. Don't worry about the quality of your guitar to start. This happens to be a fairly nice one, but they're not going to have the tone if you're using a cheaper one, but the truth is there are a lot of them that are really quite good and certainly good enough to learn on. So don't be frustrated if things don't always sound and ring as much as you'd like. Some of it depends on your skill level and the ability to hold those frets down properly, and some of it depends upon the quality of the instrument that you're using. That's not a reason to be concerned initially. So once again, if you have questions or whatever, try to find me on Facebook, and I will try to add you to the group Praise Jam that's on there. And I did put up a chord sheet in there for the Crowder song that I'm using so that you could access that, but it was just the one of the popular versions that was available at Ultimate Guitar that I just pulled down and started using for a chord sheet. And it worked well for what we needed. So I guess that's about it for this one. And I hope that if you have questions or anything specific that you will either comment and ask on the video and I'll try to address those, or get a hold of me through some other means.